Hi, everyone. Welcome to Streamin' Hub Radio. I'm your host, Sage Stevens of Shout Out with Sage. And today, my guest has been filling the boots for Jim Morrison from the popular American band The Doors, joining the stage with Robby Krieger. As a child, he was subjected to bullying, and from that was inspired to help others, and has since created the song and film entitled I Am No Joke, which features over 50 music and film icons, including Slash, Jeff Goldblum, Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne, Julian Lennon, and many, many more, including, oh wait, I forgot, the LA Symphony Orchestra, which is relevant since we're in LA, and many other icons. Currently, he's set to release his new single, Last Forever, and it's featuring an all-star ensemble of Chris Chaney from Jane's Addiction and Kenny Arronoff of the Smashing Pumpkins. And I want to welcome to Shout Out with Sage today, Andrew Cole. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hello, I'm here. I'm good. Now that we did the trek across town in the rain.
Yes. So I see from reading up on you that we're both Canadian citizens. I did not know this before.
Yes, we are.
Yes. And you recently received the National Canadian Humanitarian Award for your efforts in suicide prevention. How did that come about for you?
Yeah, that was actually a couple of years ago and just before COVID, which was a little bit over the top, I think, but it was a Canadian charity called Abuse Hurts. And it was really, I just kind of came out of the blue from, I guess, the efforts that we'd done with the movie, the documentary #No Joke. And then, we were doing a lot of galas and different events and just a lot of programs with schools, with Abuse Hurts, which is a Canadian charity that deal with bullying, domestic violence, suicide prevention, and all sorts of things, really. So that's kind of came out of the blue, unannounced.
And you yourself experienced bullying as a child, correct?
Yeah, I was, I had a lot of friends that had committed suicide, and obviously bullying is, a thing all over the world. I grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood, and I was bullied a lot because I was Canadian and had a weird accent when I was a kid, and
which you have since lost. I can tell.
Yeah, apparently when I was like 2, I would say, pardon me or something like that. But now, most of my time was spent in England, except for the last kind of 10-year stint on American soil.
Okay.
I guess when you cut your teeth when you're that age, you can't get rid of this now anymore. I'm stuck with it.
Right. Well, and if people are teasing you, I guess that would motivate you to maybe not to sound more like them than not like them.
Yeah.
Correct?
Now I just get teased in America, so it's fine.
I don't know. I think having an accent here is a good thing. So. And you're touring with the Doors. How did that happen for you?
Well, I was always a big fan of the Doors since I was a kid. In fact, I liked the Doors more than I liked the Beatles, and I used to tell my dad that all the time, and that didn't go down very well. But I won a competition called Stars in Their Eyes when I was 14, which was like they used to call it a look-alike show. It was on national television in England, and people would dress up as Freddie Mercury or Tina Turner or all these different characters, and then you'd go on. It's like a game show, really. It's like a very cheesy game show. And my friends were like, "You should go on that game show. You sound like Jim Morrison when you sing in the car." And I was like, "Oh, that's stupid. I'm not doing that." And then they kind of put me up for it. I think one of my mates kind of entered the competition without telling me. You got on it. You're in it. You've got to do it. So I just did it for a laugh, to try and be cool. And I won it. I beat like Freddie Mercury on this heat, and I got in the final, and then I won that. And the prize was to go to Père Lachaise in Paris and sing at the Renaissance Cafe, which was outside the graveyard Père Lachaise where Jim Morrison is buried, next to Oscar Wilde and all these crazy characters. And the Doors, the original lineup, obviously minus Jim, was the band. They used to do these things like 20 years ago. It was really cool. And I was really excited. My dad said no. He said, "You can't do it. You're at school." So he kind of like ruined my dreams, really.
Right.
Crushed me. And so 20 years went by, maybe more. And I was in LA and I was living here. and there was a 50th anniversary at the hotel called the Sunset Marquee.
Right.
And
I go there quite often.
Oh, you did? Oh, good. It's a really wild place, and it's always like just random rock stars walking about and like Hollywood icons and things. It's kind of like being in a movie. And I went to the 50th anniversary there, and I was just enjoying myself. And Robby Krieger from the Doors was walking past, and I just ran over to him and went, "Hey!" And he was like, "Whoa, who are you?" And I was like, "You're my hero. You know, I was supposed to sing with you when I was a kid, and my dad's not very nice." And I told him the story, and I was like, "Can I sing with you one day? Otherwise, I can't get this out of my head. You know, it's been 25 years now, and I'm still thinking about it." And he was like, "No, you know, we already have a singer." It was very nice, actually. He was very calm and polite, but you know, I probably looked like a bit of a lunatic. And I kind of talked to him for a little bit, and you know, we kind of became. I was talking to him about the Bully Project. Really, I said, "Okay, then will you play guitar on this song to change the world?" I'm trying to do a "We Are the World" song kind of thing, different song, but same kind of structure, with all of my heroes and other people's heroes. And he said, "Well, here's my email. You know, send me some more information," as people do. You know, didn't think anything of it. And I followed up with him, and he was like, "You know, I really like this. I'm interested in this. I like what you're doing, and I believe in the cause, and I think I can add something to it." And I wanted him to do an interview as well and talk about loving yourself and all sorts of things, you know.
Right.
And he came into the studio and played his guitar on the song along with all these other artists. And you know, we kind of chatted and became friends, kind of thing. And one day I had a show, and he happened to be there, and I said to the band, "Hey, play a Doors song. He's in the audience," you know. Something I can't remember where.
Impress them,
some reason, some manipulative thing that I did. And then I went over to him at the end and went, "I got to sing with you. Was that any good? Was that good or what? Like, was it good? Did I, you know, kind of invent your own audition thing?"
Right.
And he was like, "Yeah, man, you know, he's great, whatever. Very nice, but nothing." And then one day, his son Waylon had unfortunately fallen off his scooter or had some kind of accident. Robby phoned me and said, "Hey, Waylon fell off his scooter. He can't play the show tonight. He's broke his ribs. Do you want to be Jim Morrison for the night?" And I was like, I mean, sounds terrible, and God bless you, Waylon, but kind of like, I've never
hey, you have to get your opportunity, right?
I was like, "Thanks for falling off your scooter, Waylon," you know. But I think that's what happened. But so then I ended up on stage, and it just kind of grew through then, you know. Robby would phone me now and then and say, "We're going to a school, we're doing this thing for St. Jude's, we're doing a charity thing for sick kids." And I love Waylon. Waylon's always on stage as well. Waylon's Robby's son, and I think it's great to have like that father and son thing. And Waylon can really sing and really embodies the kind of energy of Jim Morrison, you know. So it's kind of like all of us really as fans just trying to do what we can to fill those Lizard King boots.
Well, I've seen you in action, so I think you're doing a great job. So I think you're fulfilling that role. Tell me more about your own. You mentioned a bit about your nonprofit, or how then, if you want to give that a shout out. What's the name? Yeah. Tell me a bit about it.
Well, when I first came to LA, I wanted to make a piece of work. You know, when I was a kid and I was bullied, I didn't have anyone to talk to. My mom was bullied by my dad. She was a nurse. She was very busy all the time, and I felt like kind of embarrassed by it. And my friends were real kind of tough nut gangsters, wannabe kind of Liverpool meets Manchester, you know, rough neighborhood. And it was, you know, it wasn't perceived cool to talk about your fears or you know, you would never turn to your friend and say, "Do you love yourself?" kind of stuff, or "Why do I feel this way?" And with all the trauma from my father and different abuse situations, I used to talk to the posters on my wall, and I'd be like, "All right, there's Jimi Hendrix, there's Slash," and they were my heroes, you know, and I used to read comic books and pretend I was like Batman or Spider-Man. And then I got into basketball, and I would listen to like rap music, and and I'd listen to the whole psychology of loving yourself and just being cool in your own skin. So when I came to LA and I was doing an album, I'd gone to a concert with a friend of mine. Said Jeff Goldblum likes your music, and I was like, I don't know who that is. And he said, well, it's the actor Jeff Goldblum. And I was like,
who's that?
Park, like, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I love him. He's brilliant. And they said, well, he's doing a jazz gig. Actually, he's got a jazz band on this Saturday in LA. Little plug for you. You should go see him. Jazz band. So I went to this jazz band gig, funny enough, 11 years ago. And he said, he knew about me, and he said in his quirky self at the piano live on stage, please welcome Andrew Cole. And I was like, what's going on? And he's like, come and sing a Beatles song in jazz with me, on the piano. I was like, I didn't have any idea what was going on. It was year one in LA in Disneyland. And I got on the piano, sang with him. And at the end of it, he said, well, if you ever need a piano player, just being nice as people do. And I said, well, actually, I've got an album coming up. Do you want to play piano on this song called Joke? And I think he was like, oh, okay, And so a few days later, we ended up in the studio playing on this song, which was just an album track. It wasn't supposed to be anything crazy or anything. And it sounded so good. And then I'd kind of done a trip back to Toronto because I was on tour over there. And I met with a friend called Alan Frew and Michael Hansen, which are two members from a popular Canadian band called Glass Tiger.
I remember them.
You know Glass Tiger? And Alan Frew had written, big songs with Rod Stewart, and he was just like this great songwriter. And I kind of was not a great songwriter. And I always wanted to be a good songwriter. So I was like, can we get a songwriting session in? I don't know. Is that cheeky? Can you help me learn some more? And I told him, like, hey, Jeff Goldblum just played piano on my song. And we were talking about this song, Joke, that he'd written. He said, well, what does the song mean to you, Joke? If you think I'm a joke, all these lyrics. And I said, well, it reminds me of being bullied. Like, I always felt like it was a joke. Like, I always felt like I wasn't worthy or something. So I was kind of angry and bitter and wanted to get past that with music. So he said, well, if Jeff Goldblum played on it, I wonder if you can get someone else on it. And I said, well, what about We Are the World? Like, I'm an 80s baby. I used to love that thing.
Right.
Lionel Richie, everyone was at the Grammys.
Yeah, everyone's all together.
What if I can do that? What else can I do? And I started building my self-esteem. And then I said, right, I'm going to go back to LA and see maybe we can get, who knows,
Yeah, you never know. When you're at the Sunset Marquee, who you'll bump into, right?
So then for about 6 months, anyone who I liked, or anyone really, it didn't even matter if I, was a fan or not. I was just like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I'm sure you've got your own perspective on what fear is essentially and why we're scared of things. And it was really, tantalizing to the brain. And so I started to enlist these people and do interviews. And some people were musicians and some people were like Sir Patrick Stewart, actor Jane Lynch was talking about, how she came out being gay and the trouble she had with her parents and, scared to come out and things like that. And Adam Lambert and stuff. And you just bump into people in nightclubs and things, and I was always thinking to myself, well, I'm not out to have fun. I'm kind of out to, I was trying to be like this mad superhero person, and everyone thought I was insane. And a lot of people said no and said, well, you're crazy. And it sounds like a nice idea, but,
yeah,
I don't even believe you. Don't know what that is. So one day I went round to Sharon Osbourne's place with Ozzy, right? And I asked Sharon and Ozzy, hey, can you make a video like with Jeff Goldblum? Like, I'll just phone 4 of you guys, because no one's listening to me. So if you make a video and I'll kind of narrate it,
right?
You guys can like ask other people, like a call to arms kind of thing, and then if I meet someone,
yeah, it gives it credibility, and people need to see other people to get inspired to join along. Yes.
Yeah. So one night I heard that Lady Gaga, it's in the film, and I'll tell you about the film in a minute, but I heard Lady Gaga was in the Chateau Marmont, which is a popular hotel.
Yes.
Old-fashioned one where like John Belushi died, and it's very cool. It's like Dracula's castle.
Yeah, it's a really cool venue or
hotel.
Yes.
And nowhere like any riffraff like me would be allowed in. But heard this through the pipeline, and she'd closed the place down, and she was having a dinner, she was a management, and I was thinking of all sorts of ideas how to get in, which is really terrible. I feel bad about it, but I had a friend who worked for TMZ, which are those, you know, crazy people with the cameras that,
Yes,
you know,
the paparazzi.
celebrity paparazzis. And I said to him, hey, do you reckon this will work? If you follow me up to the front door of the Chateau Marmont and like flash, 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 I'll just pretend I'm like, I don't know, some big deal or something.
Right.
You know, probably been watching too many like Catch Me If You Can movies with DiCaprio. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't work. You know, the woman, God bless her, Laura, was like,
yeah, I know who you're talking
I
about.
know it now. Probably thought I was insane, but she was like, you can't film here on premise. You know, you can see that in the trailer of the documentary #No Joke. You know, and you know, so I went around the back to the kitchen and finally got in and went up to Lady Gaga at the bar. It was like 4 people. I waited for people to go to the toilet. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like shaking. Like my brain was telling me, well, you're doing a good thing, so it's okay. And then I was like, well, you're not. You kind of went in without, you know, a bit naughty. But I ended up next to her, and I had this video to show her, you know. I said, what about this? And she said, who are you? And I said, you know, just Andrew. I don't, you know, just please watch this video. I'm not trying to get anything from you, but I'd just love you to talk to the kids around the world about how you got out of a trash can. You know, she said this line about no matter who puts you in a trash can, you know, you can always get out, kind of thing. And
right.
very inspiring. And so that was that. Anyway, long story short, these videos started to build, whether they were on my iPhone or I was terrible. I was filming on a camera. I was trying to learn cameras and be a cameraman and a sound man. It was very Griswold vacation to change in the world. So I had like boom mics and things I didn't understand. And my friend said, well, I know Adam Leipzig, who was the former president of Disney and National Geographic. And I was like, well, get me a meeting with him. You know, I'm going to make a documentary, I think. And he was like, okay. And I ended up going downtown LA, and over a hot dog, in a very, very fancy hot dog, actually, probably the most fancy hot dog I've ever had.
Yeah.
I showed him all this
footage that you had. So that's how, so basically that was from the song transitioning into a film.
Yeah, it's kind of like the making of like this idiot abroad, you know, who knew he was bullied, who knew he was scared, who didn't know what was wrong with him in later life, but wanted to ask his heroes and peers or whatever, you know, like psychiatric care with Slash and
well, yes. you're getting therapy more or less, yes.
Yeah, from people that you looked up to as a child, and then it's on camera, so everyone else who maybe wants to get that as well could get it. And he said he thought he could put a film together, and wanted to fly me to England to kind of look for my bully and maybe interview Paul Blades.
Oh wow! I've always thought about that, like going back to those people that have done mean things to you. So did you actually do that in your film?
We went to England in the film, and unfortunately, God bless you, Paul, wherever you are, we didn't come over to, you know, cause any trouble. We just wanted to talk and say, you know, I love you, and this is what happened, and I forgive you, but you know, we just wanted to have a chat and like kind of make friends with you. Sometimes when people bully you, you can turn into best friends with people as well. That's not an unheard of thing. Right. But Paul kind of got a little bit upset, and you know, I think there was like gangs coming after us and weird things happening in town, and the whole of Warrington and Liverpool like heard on Twitter that we'd come over with this list of icons to. I mean, he was worried, you know. It was like, we're coming over to get you, like the Guardians of the Galaxy or something. Spider-Man's bad guy. But that's not happening, so we never got to talk to him. But we did talk to like everyone else, the schools, the neighbors, the teachers, everyone I went to school with. We had like industry professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, gurus, Yodas, whatever you want to call them. The guy on the train. I think you can get inspiration from anyone, you know.
Right. So how did that? So sorry, his name was Paul.
Yeah.
He didn't take it very well that you came over to. No. Yeah, I mean, some people, as they get older, may be okay with knowing that they weren't nice when they were younger, and other people might not want to remember those things, or maybe he's still not a nice person.
Maybe, but I think it was my fault. I think it was a bit pushy, and you learn, slap my wrist. But I did do a good thing, though. You know, there was a kid that I used to bully, called Atish, and it was terrible. Really, it's this little Indian kid, and then I used to bully him as a kid. You know, when I was going through turmoil with my father, and I mean, I don't think I bullied him. I think I did a few bad things that I wasn't proud of.
Right.
And I'd said to Adam, you know, do you reckon we can go and find him? Like, I'd love to apologize to him or ask him if it affected him. And if it did, you know, I'm really sorry. And kind of just explain maybe why, you know, as you get older, you learn about trauma, right? You can kind of process trauma. I think when you're young and you get some trauma, your brain doesn't know how to process it. So later on in life, it comes out in all various forms.
Well,
And
no one talks. It's like you said, no one really talks about it. So when you're a young person and, you know, bad things are happening to you, especially if you don't have an outlet or someone to talk to about that, you have no way, like nothing to compare it to. Like you might think it's just normal. You might just think, oh, that's the way my parents are supposed to act. And until you get around other people and you get older, then you realize maybe that's not how parents are supposed to act. So
yeah, exactly. And then your trauma and like low self-esteem issues were coming out. And it's like you said, it's like kind of almost learned behavior, isn't it? You see some, it's like Ozzy said to me, well, my parents used to have physical fist fights. So if he got drunk or something, those things would come out and he would feel like that was the right way to communicate maybe or something.
Right.
And so that would happen a lot, you know, with different people. So I met Atish. We drove to his house. We found out where he lived. He lived in Birmingham at the time, and we'd never been near Birmingham. And I remember driving up to the driveway, and his dad was there doing some gardening. All right, and we had a film crew.
Did you prepare these people for this, or you just showed up?
No, because it was a documentary, so we didn't want to like prepare anyone because it was like real life kind of thing. But you don't do that in places in the world. I think in LA, if you show up with a film crew to like a hair salon, it's fine. People are used to seeing cameras every day, but if you show up in a little village in Birmingham where they've probably never seen a camera that looks like that in real life even, then they're kind of like, is this the news? Like, have I done something wrong, or have I won the lottery? And I was like, hey, do you remember me? And like, I look like this, I guess. It's like, you never remember me. I was a little kid. And he's like, no. And I went, are you Atish? And he went, no, I'm Atish's dad. And I went, oh, great. Well, you look good for yourself. I said, where's your son? Can I talk to him? And he was like really kind of perplexed. And he found him, you know, and said, Andrew Cole is here. And Atish remembered me. And Atish had cerebral palsy, you know.
Oh, okay.
And he came over to the house and said he wanted to talk to me on camera. And because he'd learned so many things of, you know, things he'd had to struggle with all his life. And we sat in his car, really nice car actually. And we talked, and I said, do you remember that time I did this to you? And he said, no. And I said, well, I was terrible to you. And he said, no, you weren't. He said, I only remember you as like protecting me. And I said, no, trust me, I remember some bad things that I said to you or things that happened. And I guess, and he said to me, he was so wise, this guy. And he said, like, he could only remember the positive things. And he said, well, maybe because you'd done some bad things, you felt like you had to realign the energy or equalize, like, you know, alkaline the bitterness or whatever. And he said, I just remember you as this. Anyway, I was able to give my apology, and he told some incredible stories, which are in the movie.
Okay.
So you can see it.
When is your movie set to be released? So where are you in the development production part of that?
Well, #No Joke, the documentary, Adam Leipzig, Lofty Sky Pictures, that came out just before COVID, actually. And it did really, really well. And it was released in Toronto Film Festival, and that's been going strong. And then, of course, we got hit with this COVID wave. And now what we're waiting on is the actual song to come out, because you're watching a film about the birth of the song, and then the film ends, and where's the song? So by the end of the year, this year, we're hoping to get this song with 75 icons out to raise money to all the organizations around the world that deal with suicide prevention and Kids Help Phone, and, you know, all those brilliant people who are really the real superheroes that are on the field, kind of, you know, right there, like the nurses of your mind, helping people out to be stronger.
you also, I think we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you were also involved with another charity, Sovereign K.
Yeah.
Is that the right name? Yeah.
Well, Sovereign K is it's not a charity. Sovereign K is run by a very sweet lady called Kim Hauk, and she kind of had this cool idea where she wanted to do events that she runs a wine company called Riena del Toro, along with an art company with Sovereign K, and it's kind of art, wine, and music and events. She loves to pull great minds together. You know, you could have a dinner with her one night, and there'd be an Olympic swimmer and with an astronaut and an actor and whatever. You know, all these crazy people around the table just rabbiting on about how we make the world a better place. You know, or collaborating in art. So that was kind of our project, and we're doing an event at the end of the month, actually, in downtown LA, where we've got a table of just really amazing people, collaborating between art, wine, and music. So that's what that project is, and we're raising money for I Am No Joke on that night as well.
Okay.
Through tickets.
So it is sort of a charity event.
Any chance I can get to turn a performance into helping someone, I'm going to do it. You know. You're there. My little way, and then I was saying to my friend, I've got this really cool friend called Jeff Perkins, right? And he, I'm in his living room right now, actually, kind of funny. Okay. And the reason for that is, everyone, I don't know if you're ever really like healed, I think life's not a constant, right? It's always going up and down. So you go through tough times, and I've gone through a real tough time in the last couple of weeks, and I felt really hard on myself. I was being very hard on myself, and it's really great when a good friend can step in, and someone that maybe I haven't seen in a minute, or could be a stranger on the bus who sees that you're not looking sharp.
Yeah.
And he really stepped in for me, and he's like had me in the gym, and he's been doing all these mental exercises with me, and just being very inspirational and saying the most beautiful things about, just reminding me again about what love is and how to love yourself.
Giving you confidence and inspiration.
Saying you can't just go to the gym 3 times and then you like rip the sexy body, So it's like you can't just do that. You have to. It's like the mind has to be in the gym as well, right? So you got to keep going with it, otherwise you can lose it a bit.
Well, yeah. Well, when you're at the gym, you're not going to feel, motivated. Okay, I did 5 reps today. Okay, great, let's go. You have to mentally go there so that you'll do all those rest of the reps, right?
Really hard as well. You're totally right, and it's hard, I think, in any industry, but for me to pick. I mean, I don't think I chose. I think the industry. Well, music chose me. Really, I didn't choose it. Right. No, definitely. But,
how did you get into music? Like, have you always been a singer? Did it come to you later?
Apparently, according to my mum, I've always been a little, like, I don't even know what to call it, but like a little. I used to dance when I was 2 in the living room, like trying.
You were a showman.
Yeah, I was a little showman. And in school, I was always in trouble because I was the class clown kind of guy. Anyone was crying, I would try and make them laugh. But I was always on show, and my mum would say to the family, "All right, Andrew's gonna do this little terrible dance or something," and then it was singing, and then we didn't have any money when I grew up, so my dad would make the mic stand out of toilet rolls or whatever, and I'd be like pretending I was in Queen or something, and so yeah, I've always like. But I'm terribly stage fright. I get terrible nerves, and it's kind of weird. And I, that's why I say it kind of chose me. And sometimes to go around the point here is kind of like, you can get off stage with Robby Krieger, and you can perform to 1,000 people or whatever. Or, I mean, I remember opening for Metallica, and there was 200,000 people in the audience, and not only was I in the lavatory, just scared out of my mind, shaking before the show. But after the initial high of that, you can be on stage and feel great, or you can have a great week at work, or you can win a basketball game or something. And then the minute it's over, sometimes my mind would go flat and I'd feel kind of almost depressed again. It was like a big roller coaster. like
Just
crash.
you'd have the adrenaline, but from being on stage and the people and the energy, and then afterwards you're just saying like, are your own like insecurities coming back into your head?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think all of my insecurities from the past, I'm still working on it today. Even, I mean, Lemmy, God bless him, before he died, we did an interview with Lemmy, and he said, "You're not healed, are you?" He said, "You're doing this." He said, "None of us are really truly healed, because something can it's about being equipped, really, I think, to what can come, because life isn't a constant. So if something terrible comes and happens to you, then it's how you get over it. And I was talking about my mate Jeff, but unfortunately his father committed suicide, he was telling me this week, and I didn't know that.
No.
And if you look at Jeff and you look at the way he lives his life and the inspirational things he's doing, you really wouldn't know that his dad, you wouldn't know. But if it's like, so that's a testament to, it's kind of like, it's like
everyone has different tools. Some people don't have I guess it's tools. Like, do you have a support system? Do you meditate? Do you self-reflect? Like, do you know what trauma is? Like, do you even know what that is? Like, what is trauma? Like, you need to do a lot of work.
And there's so many different traumas, right? The brain is so complex. It's just like a motherboard of dodgy wires. Makes us all different, makes us all amazing. And I think it was Josh Homme from Queens of Stone Age, and he said, "Andrew, it's not about how you got knocked down, it's the style in which you get back up."
When you first started in music, were there people that actually knocked you down? Were people helpful? Was there anyone that really motivated you to come to LA?
All of the above. There's the people that are like, "Who are you? You're a foreigner." There's jealous people. If you do a really good thing and they want to knock you down, they feel there's all sorts of people. It's all of the above, but you got to stick around all the ones that lift you higher, and that I was terrible at that at the start, but because I was always trying to fix everyone that was knocking me down. I would always be like, "Why are you so sad?" or "Why are you so angry?" or "Why do you hate me?" That was always my question. Why don't you like me? What have I done wrong? And that comes from trauma too, right? Sometimes.
Right. Well, it comes from your parental issues and trauma.
So if your self-esteem is really high, it's like it's on them. Like if someone is bullying you or being mean to you, then it's never normally. Sometimes it's not. It's their issues, right? So you have to have like kind of empathy for that, and there's a way to navigate that. So all of the above. I mean, of course, there's no way in a million years I'd be where I am without hundreds and hundreds of friends and lovely people and strangers who just believed in me and what I was doing, more so sometimes than I did for myself, which is kind of shocking, but not really, is it? We're all kind of like that. Sometimes people can push you into things that you never thought you'd be great at. I mean, it's a lot of stories. You hear these stories about I forget the lady's name who wrote Harry Potter.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. That's like saying, who's the guy who did Jaws and Jurassic Park? That's Steven Spielberg guy. But so apparently, she got knocked back quite a few times, and there's a lot of people that do. And I remember Denzel Washington saying, like, you've got to fall forward, and it's like you can get knocked back a loads, like fail a million times, and then you can win sometimes. So it's about having the tenacity and the self-belief to just do things that might seem insane.
What was your biggest hurdle when you started in music? Like when you realized you really wanted to make it a career and make a living from it?
Living in a village in the middle of nowhere with castles of sheep.
Okay, that could be a hurdle.
Not knowing what the internet was, and not having a computer or anything.
Okay.
While your mum's knitting and you're eating sausage rolls.
Okay, so getting to the city.
A radio. So it was like kind of getting out of there, but then not losing where you came from, and then because you don't want to ever lose where you came from, and you want to. They're the people that kind of made you, and I do miss home. It is a struggle all the time, and I suppose as we said at the start of this conversation, I'm born in Toronto. I've grown up. I've been to 18 schools. I don't really know where I'm from anymore. You know, I know I sound like this, but I'm kind of a foreigner everywhere in my own mind. So you can kind of just be like a man of the world in a way. You've got to be universal, I think. And more now, you know, we're 2023. It's just a different planet. I think everyone's a human we're just people of Earth now, and we've got access to everywhere.
Yeah, I think I'm a citizen of the world. I've lived in a lot of different places. Yes, I have like 2 citizenships, but
Oh yeah, what's your other citizenship?
well, I'm U.S. and Canadian.
Okay, so right.
So, yeah, but I just feel because I've lived in other places, and you know, I'm really interested in other cultures, and I just want to be more inclusive, I guess. So.
That's great. I mean, you know, LA is one of those places where, I mean, like many cities now, everyone's from everywhere, right?
Right, exactly.
The internet, you meet people all the time from far and wide. When you go back home, you don't really see that. Still, even to this day, actually, and I love that. There's a certain charm to where I come from. I mean, Liverpool's different. My mum's Welsh, so we grew up in North Wales with all that. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter world, or whatever. And, you know, people have been there in the same house for 30 years, and it's all the same people, and they all wave to each other on the street. But that's just the same as going to
that sounds like where I grew up in Canada as well.
Really?
So, yeah.
Where were you in Canada?
Outside of Toronto, and in Whistler for a season. I was up in the mountains. So it's, you know, very small town, even though you have lots of tourists coming in.
Yeah. You all know everyone.
Yeah. You have a new song that's coming out, Last Forever. When's that going to be released?
I'm going to release that in about a couple of months, actually. Sometime in July. I was going to release it on my dad's birthday, actually, on the 7th of July.
Okay. And that song is about people who've passed on?
Yeah. A friend of mine, I was working with a DJ called Eric Murillo, who was like the house DJ guy, you know. He wrote I Like to Move It. Remember that song?
Oh, yeah.
So a bit strange for me to work with him, but he was very nice. God bless you, Eric. He's since passed away. And he had a friend of his who was a kind of an aspiring songwriter. She hadn't really written many songs under her belt and really, really wanted to write a song. And he'd asked me, hey, you know, can you sit with her and write some songs? And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, it reminded me of, you know, pass it on and just try your best to get something going. And we had a terrible time and couldn't really get much done. And we didn't really get many things done. And then she said, well, I want to tell you a story. And I was like, okay. And she told me a story about her brother who had passed away because of a drug addiction. And it was, you know, it was a beautiful story, a very sad story, but very inspiring. And he used to leave like letters for her and things in the house, little things, like just inspiration.
That's sweet. Yeah, that's sweet.
He was passed, and I would always think about how I always wanted to talk to my dad when he died, and how death is so painful. And so this song Last Forever was essentially like a love song to all those who have passed. It's an inspirational song. It's a very nice song. Cool. And so that's the song that came out of that song session. It was really me writing down how it was her communicating with her brother, and I think a lot of people could use that for their own stories.
Well, I can't wait to hear it when it comes out. How do we find you online? Or when's your next performance? When's your next performance?
Okay, my next performance, we're booking a show right now in a place called Pappy and Harriet's, which is like this place in the desert.
Up in Joshua Tree. Yeah.
And it's like going back in time, like with Doc McFly and the Time Machine, and it's like the old sheriff, pioneer town streets and stuff.
Yeah.
That's coming up. Probably it's weird because that's not booked, but it's right before the show we're doing with Robby Krieger of the Doors. 3 nights at the Whisky A Go Go on July 1, 2, and 3. We've got this big 50th anniversary thing happening at the Whisky A Go Go, which will be crazy. But I'm going to tuck some solo gigs in, because everyone's like, when are we going to hear you playing the? I don't get to play the guitar when Jim Morrison never played the guitar, you know.
Right.
And I'm a singer-songwriter, so I miss just being on stage singing my own songs. So I got
Definitely. Well, yeah, it's a creative outlet, definitely. So you need to keep doing that.
Yeah. So that's what's next. I mean, there's going to be a couple of shows. Obviously, we're getting into that season now where COVID's gone-ish. And
we're getting to summer soon, hopefully, after all this rain.
Oh, the rain. I mean, it's very Manchester out there. I felt I was in Liverpool today. It took me like 2 hours to get from Malibu to North Hollywood today. Because people don't know how to drive, you know what it's like. I felt like Larry David in the car, like kind of moaning at everyone, going, that's not what you do in rain. I think they speed up so they don't get wet. That's my theory. You drive fast, you don't get wet, you beat the raindrops.
Okay. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah.
And how do we find you online?
Okay, so Instagram, I guess I'm on most these days, which is I am Andrew Cole, at I am Andrew Cole. And then Facebook is Andrew Cole Music. My website is iamandrewcole.com. And that's it, really. I don't really do, I should get on TikTok. All my friends are like, you got to be on TikTok. And I'm like,
yeah, they say the same to me. I'm going to wait to see what the government's going to do with them first.
I think I'm old. I'm just going to do it. They're like, don't be old. It's like when the internet first came out and my dad was like, bloody internet, it'll never do well. Forget it. And then it's like, really? Okay. So I'm trying my best with that. And yeah, I think Instagram's the main way to find me, but I shall dabble in TikTok before the year is through.
Right. I'm on TikTok. I just don't post regularly.
Cool. We're on TikTok. I've heard it's really cool. And also, I follow this guy called Gary V. I'm sure everyone knows.
Yes.
Everyone knows Gary now, right? And Gary's always saying things that he's kind of like Mystic Meg. He's kind of saying, go back to Facebook stories because they're doing reels now on Facebook. And apparently, it's massive. So I'll probably listen to him first because he seems like he knows what he's saying.
He seems like he knows what he's talking about, yes.
He knows the future.
Okay. Well, there's a few people on TikTok that I follow that are very, inspirational and have some good things. But across, social media, that's true. So, and
I think that's a good thing about social media as well, because I follow a lot of, if you go on my Instagram, and I think you can see who you're following, there's, apart from there being hordes of guitar companies and nerdy things, there's about 30% of that has got to be like kind of self-help and inspirational. So I think that's good too. That's a good thing about the internet, I think, because when I was a kid, as you say, you had no one to talk to. You couldn't go and get help on the internet, and now you can. Yeah,
well, you can see other people's, like how they handle stress, how they handle problems. Some of the advice is good. I mean, you do have to be careful where you get your advice from, but for the most part, I think there's some like good stuff out there. At least you have the choice to go find it. Like it's available to find, and then it's up to you to sort of just to distinguish and filter what's good, what will work for you or not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's great. I think it's a good
cool. So I guess that's it for today. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
No, but I love your show, and I'm a fan of your show, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being a guest today. I know the weather here in LA has been a little much to handle lately, so thanks for the effort in making it happen.
God bless you. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
And that's it for today, everyone. Thanks. I am Sage Stevens, host of Shout Out with Sage, and I will see you next Wednesday at 4 in LA time. Bye, everyone. Stay safe. Stay dry if you're in LA.